they move. They go and they take other jobs, right? So we had that happen with some of the staff who were trained in digitization. I'm not going to play this video, but it is really important. It's 3 minutes. But basically, this is one of the archivists at one of the partner institutions explaining what kinds of materials they selected and why. Selection was very key to this process, and we did also create a standard for that. Unfortunately, this slide is a little dark, but we created a selection criteria that basically allows for folks to understand what the required materials are that they need to select. And those required materials were based on the value of the material. So are these materials unique? Do they describe the history of the institution? These were the topics upon which the collection is based. So we wanted to make sure that everybody is actually selecting the same kinds of materials. So beyond the selection criteria, we also put together a metadata guide that explains what kinds of materials you might want to select. And I mentioned before, board minutes, photographs of firsts, and those sorts of things. And we gave that information to everybody and said, make sure this is what you're doing. Now, back to the question about sustainability. Economic sustainability is critical to digitization. Of course, digitization is very expensive. It still is. Those expenses are not going to be reduced over time, even though things like storage and computing systems are getting cheaper. The primary reason why digitization is expensive is because it requires what? Resource. People, right? So you have to pay for people. And so what we wanted to do was identify ways in which to market these digital collections to whomever might be interested in them. And any good business planning process involves an in-depth analysis of the market. We developed a target market and identified primarily Black studies programs, African American studies programs, American studies programs. We identified ways in which these target markets might utilize the collection, so curriculum development, as was mentioned earlier, as well as other kinds of commercial applications. Unfortunately, though, we recognize that the commercial opportunities are vast. However, librarians are really not keen on selling information. So we've had to sort of table the opportunities that might be available from the commercial vendors. And what I'm talking about here is the potential to package the digitized collections and then sell them to places like JSTOR, other electronic publishers, who can then make them widely available and sell them along with other electronic resources that they collect. As we imagine, this is a primary issue because ownership within the African American community for digitized collections and their paper-based collections is a critical issue. Just like in Africa, we've seen African American collections exploited, stolen, and so this has been something that we're continuing to deal with, hence the need for a value statement that says these are the kinds of people we want to partner with, and for this reason, and then these are the kinds of things we want to do with the digitized collections. So I think that kind of statement is very key among any partners or cooperative entities that decide to embark upon a digitization project. Some of the things that we found that folks might be able to do with these collections, and this is based on our own research and some of the things that are going on at Cornell, for example, recruitment. You know, recruiting students to your institution. Genealogy is a huge area. Folks are very interested in genealogy. That's another potential market. Alumni engagement and fundraising, research, teaching, and learning. Now imagine, of course, these are public and private colleges and universities, so we're coming from a perspective that is primarily rooted in academia. Public libraries and museums and archives may have a different kind of target market and might want to explore how some of these market uses could translate into those general population. what we're finding is that folks are doing some really phenomenal things with digital collections, and some of the examples are the print on demand. So you've created a digitized collection, you have images that folks will want to access and print, and you basically throw them up on Amazon and say every time somebody wants to create a book, a coffee table book for example, they are able to then select which images they want in that coffee table book and then print that through Amazon. Revenue is generated, it comes back to the institution. Okay? And so these are the things that we, with our business plan, have identified as desirable outcomes for what collections the individual HBCUs have created. Licensing. Lots of folks are doing movies. We're receiving phone calls from folks who want to create documentaries on HBCUs. And so what we've done is saying, okay, if you're a public or you're a commercial entity and you want to do that, we have pricing set at a different level rather than if you are an individual, say for example a student, and you're writing a book or some other publication. You'd probably pay less money if you fall into that category. Now, this is the last slide, but basically what I'm saying here is this project, I believe, is an excellent model for developing a collaborative African digital library, and it is primarily because everything that I've heard at this conference so far that the folks here want to accomplish, we're actually doing. Save for some of the issues that are unique to this continent versus what we're dealing with in the United States, we recognize that the very first thing that we must do is those entities must agree on project goals, objectives, and milestones. Understanding the kind of content you have is also key. Recognizing the needs of your stakeholders is a third area that is also key. And starting small. My recommendation would be starting with a planning grant. And actually this project began with a planning grant to develop a curriculum in digital librarianship at one of the accredited historically black colleges and universities that had a library school program. Excellent choice because library school students are a great group of folks who can be trained to then go out and work with others who are interested in digitization. We have new partners who are joining this project all the time, and we've been able to test our model by identifying partners who agreed that, yes, I'm interested in participating in the project, but I didn't receive equipment, I don't have money for scanning, how do I participate? In one example, we had a partner that was geographically close to one of the new libraries that wanted to participate, and the archivist from that library literally drove over to that institution, and she was able to use the equipment that was purchased through the project to scan a few images, let's say 50, and then she was able to go back to her office and at her desk upload those images to the common server located in Atlanta, Georgia. So the key here, proof of concept. It's a big issue, right? Start small, identify common collections, make sure that there is a governing entity that is in agreement about project goals, milestones, and objectives, and then that governing entity will represent how the project manifests, how information about the project is disseminated, and those sorts of things. Even though this project began with the idea that we were going to invite participation by 10 libraries and then grew to 20 libraries, and now we're into 22 libraries, we wanted to make sure that at the end of this process, any library that is a member of the HBCU Library Alliance could participate. And so that's where we're at right now. I would say the final two things, we have established digital imaging procedures and processes that are available on our website, and documenting everything that is done is really key, because the information will be available to folks, you know, beyond, I want this project basically to live beyond me. And so that's why we have documentation about everything from our standards to reports. And like I said, communication is key. So we're making sure constantly that everything that we do is communicated to the general membership as well as to other folks who are interested in the project. And the members of the HBCU Library Alliance leadership do extend their gratitude for to Professor Yela Bakari, Habib C, for inviting me to participate in this conference and share the wonderful work that they are doing. And I am here on their behalf, as well as here to assist in any way that I might be able to with digitization at your respective organizations. Thank you.